Hello my dear students, welcome to Vigyan's Foundation for Science, Technology and Research, deemed to be University. I, Dr. MVK Srivani, Associate Professor from the Department of Sciences and Humanities, present here to discuss about food chains and food webs. Let us see in detail about food chains and food webs. You can see here food chains and food webs. Now, let me tell what is meant by food chain and food web. I told you in the previous class about energy flow. See, in the nature, one organism is eaten by another organism and maintains balance. The energy transfers from one organism. For example, the energy transfers from plants first. Another organism come and eat the plant which is known as herbivore. Plants, you can give an example, grass, which is eaten by herbivore, that is grasshopper. Frog, which is eaten by frog. See, like this the energy transfers I told you in the previous class. From grass to grasshopper, frog, snake, hawk. Okay, and maintains balance, which is very important. So, this chain like structure, the energy transfers from one organism to other organism, and this chain is called food chain. You can give any example, not only this example. That is food chain. The transfer of energy from producers through the series of organisms with repeatedly eating and being eaten is called food chain. Now, what is food web? This is single food chain. Food web means number of food chains. For example, two or more food chains combine together to form web. For example, we say spider web. How it will be? It will be like network-like structure, network-like pattern. We call it as web. So, that's why here food web means number of food chains combined together to form a network-like structure. Okay. So, now is it clear about food chain and food web? So, now let us see food chains and food webs. See, what are the main objectives and outcomes of this topic? The main objectives of this topic helps to understand the connections within the food chain as well as how producers, means plants, and consumers, which depends on other for food, interact for energy flow through an ecosystem. Okay. So, now finally what happens? The students gains importance on food chains and food webs that helps to maintain ecological balance. I told you, if the food chain is disturbed, it results in ecological balance. That much important, the food chain. Clear? I told you already the definition. What I told you? The transfer of energy from producers through the series of organisms with repeatedly eating and being eaten. So, that is food chain I told you. In the nature, one organism is eaten by other organism and energy transfer. Right? Now, these food chains on land, you can see, are known as terrestrial food chains. What is terrestrial? If land is a habitat, we call it as terrestrial. Next, aquatic. What is aquatic? Aquatic means water. Water is the habitat. Terrestrial means land is the habitat. So, what examples can you give here? Food chains on land. Here you have to give food chains in the water. Okay. So now you can see what are the examples. See, this is the sunlight. Plants, what I told you in energy flow, the plants get energy from the sunlight. See, plants. That means they convert that radiant energy into chemical energy. Plants prepare their own food material by process which is known as photosynthesis. Right? Now you can see the energy from the plants transfers to grasshopper. Some amount of energy transfers. I already discussed about energy. Okay. So now this grass is eaten by grasshopper, which is eaten by frog. Finally from frog to eagle or hawk we can say. Okay. So like this the energy transfers from plants to other organism in a serial order. That is food chain. This is an example of food chain on land, which we call it as terrestrial food chain. Okay. So now you can see this is an aquatic food chain. What I told you about aquatic food chain means we have to give example of food chain in water. Now I can give common example for this. Whatever they may give you aquatic food chain, this is the common example because the energy always transfers from the plants. So here phytoplankton. I told you planktons means free floating organisms. That is plankton. So these planktons are classified into two types. They are, first one is phytoplankton and the second one that is zooplankton. See, what's an example for this phytoplankton? Algae. Algae is an example. See here how the energy transfers from the plant masses. Floating mass of plants is called algae. Okay, so now the energy transfers from phytoplankton here. From phytoplankton in the water, some small minute floating organisms are present which are known as zooplanktons. Okay, so the energy always from the phytoplanktons transfers to zooplankton. Zooplankton means small minute organisms in the water. So these minute organisms in the water are eaten by small fish. This small fish is again eaten by big fish. This is example of aquatic food chain in water. Okay. Now these food chains are classified into three types. Actually terrestrial food chain means on land, aquatic food chain means in water. Here the food chains classified into three types. These are the types of food chains. Okay. So now you can see first one grazing food chain, second one parasitic food chain, third one detritus food chain. What I told you about detritus, please remember in the first class I told you detritus means dead material, maybe plant material or animal material, whatever material, dead material. Okay, so grazing food chain, I have to give examples and I will tell you what is it. Okay, so grazing food chain means the food chain which starts with green plants, for example grass. We can also say producers. If the food chain starts with producer and ends with carnivore, you can give any example, then it becomes grazing food chain. Parasitic food chain means the food chain that starts with large organism, very big organism if the food chain starts and ends with minute organisms, very small organism, then it is called parasitic food chain. Here if the food chain starts with dead material, maybe leaf material, animal material, bird material or any material, then it is known as detritus food chain. Okay, detritus means dead material. So now you can see the examples. See, this is an example here. I already told you grazing food chain. See here, it starts with grass and ends with carnivore. I can give this example. First I told you about terrestrial food chain because that example, the producers, it starts with producer and ends with the carnivore. So that's why, see, grass is a producer. It started with the producer and it ends with the carnivore. So it is grazing food chain. What is the next one here? You can see parasitic food chain. See what I told you. See, large organism, tree. Can you identify the tree which is very large? Okay. So now on the tree what are present? Insects, snakes, birds. Okay. On the tree they are present. They get energy. That means they eat some. They take shelter on the tree. It may be the habitat for these organisms. They feed on the leaves, twigs and all. So okay, so insects, birds, snakes, these are very small when compared to the tree. See, the food chain here started with the large organism, that is tree. From tree, insects, birds. See small organism. What are these? Bugs and lice. These are pests. These are very small. Okay, they live in the hair or feathers. These pests, and they get they feed on it inside, okay, or outside. So here bugs and lice are very small. Okay, these are again eaten by microbes which are invisible, which we cannot see. See here you can see clearly the food chain started with the large organism and ended with very small organism. This is parasitic food chain. Clear? So now what I told you about detritus food chain. See, this is detritus food chain. See the leaf material. Leaf litter means dead leaf material. Here you can see the food chain started with the dead material. I am giving example in the water, you can give even on land, but the example should be correct. So now you can see these leaf litter, dead leaf material is eaten by some insects, some small shell organisms. Okay, snails example, snails, molluscans, snails. Okay, snails are the examples for molluscans, small shell organisms. Okay, so these are eaten by fish, small fish, which is eaten by big fish. Small fish is eaten by big fish. So now you can see here the food chain started with the dead material. That is an example for detritus food chain. Okay, so now what I completed? Food chains. Definition of food chains. I told you terrestrial food chain, aquatic food chain, including types of food chains. What are they? Grazing, parasitic and detritus. Okay, so these are the food chain and its types with examples. Now let us see food web. What I told you, food web means it is the mixture of two or more food chains. Two or more food chains are combined together to form a network like pattern, that is food web. So now you can see this is the definition. They show the feeding relationship because it is a mixture of many food chains. Hence they show the feeding relationship, and we can say it is an interconnected of food chains. You can simply write two or more food chains are combined together to form a web-like pattern. You can write like that. Now I am giving examples of terrestrial food web. Means food web on land. Next one, aquatic food web. Means food web in the water. Okay. So now let us see terrestrial food web. You can see this one. See, it consists of two or more food chains, and it is the food web. Now you can see this is one food chain, grass, which is eaten by rabbit, it is again eaten by hawk, one food chain. This grass can be eaten by grasshopper, lizard, two hawk. How many food chains? Two food chains. Okay, now you can see grass, mice, snake, hawk. How many food chains? Three food chains. You can also directly give grass, lizard, hawk, directly you can give. So, but now you show here three food chains, enough. It should be correct. Here three food chains, maybe you can see number of food chains in this. Three food chains, you just write three food chains are combined together to form a network like pattern here. Or you can give another, you can add another food chains, grass, lizard, hawk directly. Okay, that is also one food chain. Understood? So, this is a terrestrial food web example. I am showing here four food chains are combined together and forms a network like pattern. Now you can see this is the food web in water. Okay, so here there are some 8 to 9 food chains I will show you. Okay, now let me explain. You can see this is in the water. This is an aquatic food web. Means water. What is this? Water plants, aquatic plants. The aquatic plants are eaten by tadpole, means larvae. See, the energy from the aquatic plant goes to tadpole. This is eaten by water beetle, which eats live organism. Predator. Predator means which eats live organism. From water beetle, the energy goes to perch. This is one type of fish. From this, the energy goes to pike, which is large fish. Here, you just note down one food chain. This is one food chain. Now, another food chain you can see here, the energy from the aquatic plants goes to small crustaceans. Crustaceans means small shell organisms, I told. Okay, from the crustaceans, the energy goes to roach. This is one type of fish. From roach, the energy goes to pike, large fish. How many food chains? Write down. 2 food chains. Now you can see here, aquatic plants are eaten by insect larvae, which is eaten by frog. From frog, pike. How many food chains? 3 food chains. Now you can see. You please remember these are the 3 food chains. Now aquatic plants, small crustaceans can be eaten by water beetle. How the food chain goes? Water beetle to perch, perch to pike. 4 food chains. Here also aquatic plants, insect larvae, this can be directly eaten by water beetle, perch, pike. How many food chains? 5 food chains. Now, these aquatic plants, small crustaceans, I told you it is eaten by water beetle or it may be directly eaten by the frog. From frog to pike. How many food chains here? 6. Here also, aquatic plants, insect larvae, not only by water beetle, directly it is eaten by roach to pike. How many food chains? 7. Clear? 7. Now I will show you another 2 food chains also in this. You can see aquatic plants, insect larvae, frog can be eaten by perch. From perch to pike. How many food chains? 8 food chains. Okay. Now here also you can see aquatic plants, small crustaceans, roach, perch to pike. Okay. This is another food chain. Now how many food chains? 9. So here how many food chains are there? 9 food chains are combined together to form a network like pattern, which is known as food web. Okay. So food web, terrestrial food web example, aquatic food web example is completed. See, these are some of the references which I have taken from the net. Thank you one and all. In this lesson, I covered food chains, gave example for terrestrial and aquatic food chain, types of food chain, food webs with examples. Thank you.